right? If it, how can we, okay, I said it like this. If there are 8 billion of us on the planet and we are all God breathed, right? We are we are pieces of consciousness, right? Do we really think that consciousness source itself wants to have 8 billion experiences that are the same or different?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Like if I were source itself and I send and I'm because I could, okay, because I'm source, I could be like, nah, I don't want this many of me down here. All right. So when people talk about, oh, overpopulation, well, that's up to source. Source can make it just like that. Nah, y'all out of
Right,
here. Right?
right.
Like the dinosaurs ain't here no more. So, right? Like I love elephants. But I'm curious about what the mammoth would have been, right? But I don't know. So it's just like, okay, so there are 8 billion of us here. Like even though you and I are having this conversation and we are, we're in sync, we're in flow, we're having this great, beautiful experience. Our experiences are different. Our
Right.
takeaways are different. And if I watch this back, it'll be different again. So this sameness that we think that we're supposed to have, it's really about unlearning the lie. Where is the lie? If something is causing you a lot of pain, look for the lie that you have bought to be the truth.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And that
Even in
question,
my,
what
huh?
what what is the lie or what is the misinterpretation that I have? And then what's the truth? Right? You can follow it up with that. What's the truth for me? Wow.
Well, I do a pattern. I do a definite pattern interrupt with where's the lie? Like, where is it? Right? Like for
Yeah.
you, that feels softer, and for me, if I gave myself that out, then I would make it. I would waste time, and I need to be jarred. I need to be like that language for me is the best because also then where's the truth? Well, there are many different versions of the truth, right? If you and I are both having this one experience, but we're having different experiences, both of
Right.
those things are true. So then, like, which one is more true? And you know what I
Right.
mean? So so it's simpler for me to be like, where's the lie? And so for your viewers, the reason that this is so beautiful is like which version at whatever moment that you need it, which tool applies to whatever situation you're in whenever you're in it. And if it ceases to be helpful in that moment, knowing and being willing to try something else
Mm.
is important,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You
You don't have
drove this,
you don't have
huh?
to stay with the same medication if it no longer feels right. You don't have to stay with the same practice or thing or if it doesn't feel right or if you know that it's not working, right?
Right, like like Tony Robbins, he talks about the values and stuff that people look for, and one of them uh, is he talks about the things that stick out to me. I'll say contribution, right?
Mhm.
What is your contribution to this event, to your life, etc., and variety, right? If you drive to work the same way every day, your brain can kind of turn off as it gets you to work, and now your mind is off somewhere, right? That's dangerous.
Right.
you know, do something do something where you can stay engaged and stay in the present, right? Even if you're tweaking it just a bit. Like I've plenty of clients have said to me, "Oh, I just don't know how to meditate." Meditating can look Meditating is having awareness of the thing that you're doing while you're doing it.
Mm.
My issue with I love being American. I love great, check all the boxes, say all the things I need to say, blah blah blah. My problem with being with Americans is that we will take a concept and we will score it down to the bone, and then we'll create this other thing. What do I mean by that? Meditation is one of the tenets of yoga. I think there are 8 tenets of yoga,
Okay.
right? So in other words, yoga now just means, who can outstretch the other person and bending themselves into these poses, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just like, but honey, like, yeah, you could do that. You're double jointed. That's great. That's great. But what awareness are you now privy to that you weren't before you could, fit yourself into this pose, right?
Mm. Mm.
How aware are you when you're taking steps like from the kitchen to the bathroom or wherever you're going? Like, how aware were you? Right? And it's just like, well, that's ridiculous. Like, why do I need to slow it down that much? It's just like, because when we can slow our lives down that much, they get to mean more,
Mm.
right? Versus these big peaks, right? So like we're only celebrating the milestones of air quotes, the milestone of a birthday, if it's your 40th or your 50th, beyond. But 51 is important. All of them is important in order to get you to 60. Like, what are we talking about? Right?
How big of a deal is it? I mean, I'm looking at myself. How big of a deal is it to slow down and to? That's funny. The awareness that you just talked about. I know that, but I don't practice that as much as I feel like I should. Especially now that we've talked about it, I'm really thinking about that now. How big of a deal is that? That having that awareness from slowing down and I've got on me now just really enjoying things as you move through life, enjoying your food. I mean, I watch people eat so fast, right? And then I remember the guy, he's transitioned now. He was a monk guy. His name started with an N, and he had books and all of this stuff. And I remember listening to him talk about eating.
Thich Nhat Hanh. I think
I,
I'm mispronouncing his name. Vietnamese monk. Yeah,
yeah,
I love him.
I,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
remember him talking about taking. I may be wrong, but it was a long time. I want to say an hour to eat. And that's about awareness. That's about being aware. It's about being present. It's about being in the moment. And it has so many benefits, but we are being conditioned to move so fast. There's always a next thing that needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. Last year when my wife and I we went to Florida for our anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And, growing up, our vacations were always 2 or 3 days max. And conditioned, that's what we had been doing.
Mm-hmm.
But last year, we took, I want to say 8 days. And we didn't drive, we flew down. I became aware that it took me 3 days to stop feeling like I needed to rush because we were getting ready to go back.
Wow.
When that hit me, it was, no, we still have a whole nother week. We're not leaving until next Sunday. And it was like Saturday. It was like the Saturday or the Sunday before. It's like, we're not until next Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
that said on me that, no, I'm not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still
Mm-hmm.
feeling like I needed to rush. I was still feeling that weight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
of your awareness in the moment.
Cumulatively, it robs you of your life, right?
Mm,
So, like, how important is it to slow down? It is everything, right? Um, People are in pain. They're the walking wounded because their dreams um, are almost unachievable because they didn't take the small seemingly insignificant steps that they needed to create their peace and to create their joy. They didn't choose themselves. They said no. They said yes when they meant no. Um, but we feel like unless we have like this big grandiose like Instagram life, that we're not significant. But when you can slow down your experience to have a conversation like this, to listen to your child express their day, to stop what you're doing when your spouse comes into the room and to light up and to make a big deal about it, even though you saw them 15 minutes ago, who cares? Who cares? Right? Like what they care and they feel good, and now you feel good, and now you've made a moment out of nothingness. That's
mm,
all that we're doing. We are creating out of nothingness. Even the biggest movie star has created out of nothingness,
mm,
right? And they are playing pretend based on somebody's regular life. And now we go and we watch them create this performance out of nothingness from being regular, and then you go back to your regular life and now you feel insignificant. What?
mm. And do you call that manifestation? Is that manifestation in the moment when you create an experience like that? Because we don't
All of it is
manifest.
manifestation. Yeah. 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 Just like, you invited me to have this conversation, and we didn't discuss what we were going to discuss, right? We've manifested it, like following the energy, and
Mhm.
trusting ourselves enough to know that we were going to show up full and play full out, and that's all this is, right? I decided, speaking of variety, I had some shrimp in the freezer, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna make me some shrimp burgers. And Fitz was all, do you know how to make them? I'm like, no.
I got an idea
No,
though.
I do. I was like, I do not, right? And so I'm looking it up online. I'm looking at all the recipes, and he's just like, well, how hard can it be? You go put your hot mama on it. It's a spice that I make. And I was just like, no, I need information. I said, I need information so I can throw out what I don't want, throw out the ideas that don't serve me or that are not in my kitchen, because I'm
Uh,
not going to the store, right?
uh,
This is the challenge. And these are the things. It's like that's what creates a memory. Oh, remember the time you did the thing and it ended up, it was a disaster, or it was beautiful, or whatever, everything in between. We're
right.
waiting for this big grandiose thing to happen in order for us to celebrate. But if you get in the habit of being celebratory, then the
Uh,
opportunity, it can happen every day. It
wow.
can happen
Or
every moment.
it is happening. I said it is happening, but you just said about waiting for the big thing, and in waiting for the big thing, most often you're not in alignment with the big thing because you're waiting, and you're probably frustrated because it hasn't happened yet, and so you're not in alignment with it, and so it never happens. And you find yourself never having a reason to celebrate.
We are conditioned to being, we're habitual, frustrated beings.
I have a story for you. My
I
guy, I take my guys to work out for basketball. Me and my middle son got up this morning. My youngest had workouts at his school yesterday, so he was like, "Nope, I'm not getting up in the morning to go." So we got up 4:30 to be at the Y at 5 when it opened, so we could work out for an hour. We've been doing that for a while now, because basketball season's right around the corner. Kendrick is a senior this year. But my guys, I'm working with them diligently and trying to do it in a way that they don't push against me. They are conditioned, just what you just said, to celebrate the misses and the mistakes. But when they do things correctly or they make shots, nothing. Right? The emotion and the bigness is applied to the misses, but not to the makes. We're not celebrating our successes. We are conditioned to celebrate. And it's celebrating when you're applying that emotion and you're making it big in the mind and the body, and you actually say words and behave in a way. We're conditioned to celebrate our problems, to celebrate the mistakes and the mishaps, and to celebrate the missed shots versus celebrating the makes, not knowing we're programming ourselves, continuing the conditioning in that direction. So I'm like, guys, celebrate the makes. Don't think about the misses at all. Don't give it any more energy. But they're conditioned to that already. And so it feels like an uphill battle trying to get them to celebrate in their successes. Because they'll make 8, 9, 10 shots in a row. And nothing. They might smile a little bit. I'm like, that's normal. You guys know how to shoot. But when they miss a couple of shots, I'm like, no, forget it. Don't give it any.
Absolute devastation. So there's a two thing going on. So in competition now, I don't know if they're doing this in other countries, so forgive my ignorance, but to celebrating because someone has a participation award, I think is ridiculous, right? Why are we getting sixth place awards? Like I don't understand that. I don't get that. There's that. That's the elephant in the room for me, right? But the other thing is this devastation. 'Cause I just watched the World Championships for track and field, and these people are amazing at what they do. Like absolutely amazing, right? So like I think India was doing track and field. It was men's track and field, and it was important for them to qualify in these championships so that they could like be open for the running in the Olympics, right? And I think it was like a 4x400 or something like that. And they got fifth place or fourth place, and they were absolutely excited because this put them in the running, right? I also saw people win silver and bronze, and they felt like, man, I really accomplished that goal. That was amazing, right? But then if the Americans did not win gold, they were not, some of them were not gracious.
Mm.
They felt as if they had lost. And I'm like, well, how disrespectful is that to the people that you competed against? So you're basically saying that their will and their effort and the fact that they beat your ass. The fact that they beat you, that doesn't count because you didn't win? Ridiculous. But to the point of not of berating themselves when your boys miss those baskets, it's this devastation of, oh, I'm not being the best,
Mm.
right? So even when I am the best, I'm looking for the next time I fail versus the fact that I am just being, I'm in the zone, I'm in my flow, right? And maybe it's really about, because children are different now. They are, we can't raise them the way that we've been raised. My issue with our generation is expecting our children to be us, which
Mm.
is why our parents had a problem raising us, because they wanted us to be them, right? And it's like, just, we have to gently do this. We have to just guide them in the way that, in the safest parameters for them to go, because they're going, right? Because collectively, these humans, the younger generation, have chosen to come in together to do and create this thing that's being created,
Right. Right.
right? So within the parameters of this matrix that they've created, that we are in, how do we teach them that being humble under the guise of being in the collective and being accepted is bullshit,
Yeah.
versus just being humble because that's just your beingness? Like, but if that's not you, then don't be that,
I've
right?
had challenge with that word humble, having, in the way that it is portrayed growing up
Hmm.
in, religion.
You and I've
It
had this conversation many times. Yep.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it, what I have learned is that, the language and the words that we use, the meanings and the interpretation changes depending on the vibration that you're in, right? Being powerful in a low vibration and being powerful in a high vibration are two different things, right? We're taught, as far as power in a low vibration, that it's damaging to other people, you're hurting somebody, you're willing to do anything and everything to get ahead. But power in a high vibration means that you are fully you, and you are choosing to be brilliant, and that's what you show up as to everybody you come in contact with, or some version of a high version of yourself, because you're selfishly choosing that.
Well,
Things.
even the trigger word that you just mentioned, like, we could wax poetic for another hour about the term selfish,
Mm.
right? um like we were just talking about productivity, right? I'm watching someone on YouTube, and their version of being productive, right? It's just like, I don't have to damn someone for their version. I can celebrate their version, because
Right.
that automatically means that then now I have the room to do my version. It's not supposed to be a carbon copy of them. It has to look the way that I say that it looks, and I tweak it accordingly, because it has to fit inside of my life,
Mm.
right? So when we are talking about excellence, like when people, okay, I do have male clients, not as many, but they tell you got to pick a niche, so that's why that's the verbiage that I put in my bio, right? But when I tell people, especially women, it's just like they have this thing about being selfish, and it's like, okay, the most selfish act that you've ever done was your first act on this planet as you. They're like, what are you talking about? Just like, you didn't care the cost, even if it killed your mother, but you
Mm.
were born. The simple act of being born is the most selfish act. So you already intrinsically know how to be selfish. So cut it. Stop it. Stop the story. right?
And
Life or life or death. I'm sorry, you cut out
oh,
a second.
I said it's natural. It's not, the challenge at speaking for myself again, the greatest conflict, the greatest inner conflict that I have had and have is going against myself. And I'm noticing it more now how often I go against myself for others, right? And it's most people close to me. That's where it shows up the biggest, most
Hmm.
often when you start dealing with expectations and things of that nature, and you find yourself doing things for people when you said earlier about saying yes when you really want to say no.
Hmm.
Along that, it's almost like you're giving yourself away a little bit,
Hmm.
and it turns and it feels like conflict.
It's inner conflict. You're accurate. It is conflict, and I was my issue with when people ask a question, when people ask me a question, all right? I know that it is my I, I strive to be autonomous in everything, always. And so when you ask me a question, I know that it is within my right to say yes or no.
Hmm.
Period. I'm not asking for permission. I for the most part, I'm not afraid to take up space. I'm not afraid to stand alone. But when people ask you a question, they are conditioned that you are supposed to say yes if they want you to say yes, and no if they want you to say no, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, but I'm not your pawn. I'm a sovereign being, right? And you don't get to chip away at me for your benefit. That's a hard pass. No, right? And it goes back to the self-worth thing. So like the more we get to know ourselves, right? And to know that I have the right to say yes or to say no with no heat and no judgment
Right.
from them or for me, especially for me, right? To build a soft place to land within yourself is the biggest tool you could ever build for yourself, to give yourself grace, to be kind, right? Because when you're kind to yourself and you're compassionate to yourself, your whole world must bend to that. It does not have a choice. It might be crappy as you're getting to know your no, right? So it's just like I could really coin myself as the queen of no. I could. But as you're like getting to like get used to the no, right? It could be a shitstorm for a minute. And it calms down. It's like, oh, we don't do that over here. I gotta go somewhere else to get my fix, right? Now, I'm gonna say what I need to say, and you can respond however you respond, but I'm gonna stand my ground. Why? Because my biggest teacher, I picked the best professor in the world for me, and that's my husband.
Mm.
And if I could say yes or no to him as I need to, I could say yes or no to anybody. Anybody.
And I was going to ask, how do you, and you kind of went over some of it, beginning to choose that, getting to that place, going through what you have to go through to get comfortable with it, and also doing it from the right space or the right energy. Because, can, a lot of people I'm trying to find other words or other scenarios, but a lot of people can say no in that idea, but they do it from an free place. They do it from a place of frustration. That's what gives them their power versus being in that space of I'm comfortable with me and I'm saying no. That's two different things, right?
I think it's a path. Right. I think there's an assumption that you get to a place and you're big and bad and don't dare and blah blah blah. And sometimes you have to be uncomfortable in your no until it becomes the thing that you can pull from and choose should you need to do that. Right. So if you ask me something and now I've got to say no, right? And no, right? And so now I've got to get mad at you or the situation, and I'm frustrated, but I'm really indignant. I'm appalled that you've asked me such a thing. How dare you? I've got to do that thing until it's just like, oh, man, they have a right to ask, just like I have the right to decline.